call this special call work session meeting to order, November 1st, 2023. Dr. Arbogast, we are here to revise and reapprove literary loan resolutions for many of our campus buildings.
Yes, sir. We've had conversations over the last weeks about the applying for the literary fund. Applications for the literary fund are due November 16th, and as part of that, we have to have resolutions passed by the board. As you know, we asked the board at the October 19th meeting to pass resolutions. However, through additional conversations after that meeting, we've had to make some adjustments to the costs, and we need to try to make some decisions on the dollar amount that we need to include in those resolutions for the projects. Giles High School, the tech center doesn't change. The cost for the tech center renovation roof, 1.8 million that we had, or over 1.8 million in the original resolution from the 19th. That was fine. So we're not going to ask you to reapprove that one. I think everybody, we just need signatures on that. The Giles High School, we do need to ask the board to amend the dollar amount in that one because we asked you in the original one, I don't know, it was 17,955,000. This we're asking you to amend that to 18,705,614 in this resolution because that's going to still includes HVAC roof replacement. The lighting system replacement in the auditorium, windows throughout the building, but this one includes creating a safe schools entrance at the school facility. So that's 18,705,614. Narrows High School, same thing. We're going to ask you to amend that dollar amount to 13,433,612. Also, that will include including a safe schools entrance there for Narrows High School as well.
For that, what's that number roughly, Dr. Arbogast?
The safe school entrance?
Yes, sir.
We, based on conversation with ZMM, we have included $500,000 for the safe school entrance for Giles High School, for Narrows High School. Also included for Narrows Elementary. We have an application to apply for literary funding for Narrows Elementary for a safe schools entrance, as well as refurbishment of the elevator within the building. So that's $650,000, $500 for the safe schools, and $150 for the refurbishment. And that's probably a little bit high. We could go back to $625 on that, but that should cover everything. The two, let's see, I think the two that we really need to have a discussion about are Macy and Eastern, because I have three, as you saw from the board packet, there's three resolutions in there, three options for Macy, and there's two options for Eastern. Option A for Macy, that was just over $1 million, $1,175,000. All that is for Macy is door refurbishment, door replacement, hardware replacement throughout the building, interior and exterior. That's the elevator refurbishment, and the safe schools entrance upgrade. So we said about $750,000 for the door replacement, hardware replacement throughout the school building. $125 for the refurbishment of the elevator, and the safe schools entrance upgrade is about $300,000. However, if we're going to talk about adding any classroom space, the 4 classrooms, which was about 7,700 just over 7,700 square feet, about $450 a square feet, you would have to add another just over $3.4 million to that resolution. And the second option would take that cost to $4,653,500. The final option, it would be be higher, and that would be in the event we were going to consider adding 10 classrooms and a STEAM lab there at Macy, as well as a auxiliary gym, and renovating some of the classrooms in that building, because that was going to become the 5-8 or 4-8, whatever configuration that might be. And that is $15,475,600. Eastern, again, there was two options, again, depending on configuration, desired to go in for the schools. The first option, we know, we've talked about HVAC, roof replacement, safe school entrance, and anything is $8,722,654. So that's one option that you have for Eastern. The second option, again, depending on grade configuration, is what I just shared with you, the 8.7, but also adding additional classroom space, 6 rooms, to accommodate grade levels depending on what is chosen. And that would take it to $14,722,654. However, both addition at Macy and addition at Eastern, they would both not be required, one or the other, depending on the grade configurations.
Well, in actuality.
In actuality, Eastern probably would not necessarily, because you can increase the classroom to 19-to-1 ratio and you would have it covered. So that's what we've been talking about for really the last couple of weeks since the board meeting to get to the point this morning.
Let me ask you a question about the Macy resolution. Have you spoken with that program about what would happen if we submitted the option C and then decided that we were going to do something less than that?
We had a conversation with, find it and I can tell you the conversation that I had with them, with a representative from DOE. And I sent that back to him on Friday afternoon after we had the conversation to verify what I understood. Because I told him, I said, we've been discussing possible grade reconfigurations for the last however long. Can we apply for the literary fund based on these anticipated changes? That means additional classroom space to be added, et cetera, or do we need to base the application on how the building is currently being used, grade-wise, and the current needs for the building? Based on the conversation we had, my understanding, he said we would be submitting an application that is providing a reasonable projection on proposed changes, planned or projected, and that would be okay to apply for. But we would need to make sure that if the scope of the project were to change, then it would only be a reduction of the scope, not a total change of the scope. If the total change of the scope, then we would have to reapply. But if it's just a reduction in scope, we should be okay. And that's what they said. And again, that's what he reiterated a couple times. The project scope is pulled back, but the project purpose is intact, not a totally different change in the purpose. That would be okay, and we just have to submit a reduced loan request document provided to them.
What about, do we find anything on SCAP with respect to those, whether that option C would be something that would qualify for SCAP versus?
If the new project, because that would be a new project, because you're talking adding classrooms, that is totally different from this original SCAP that they've gotten. As long as it is different, it's a separate procurement, separate bid process, separate scope, different permitting, et cetera, then possibly it could be funded. We would have to submit the application and they'd have to review it. And that's a conversation that Dr. Brown and I have had over the last week as well. Macy, as we talked about, we know we're talking about the doors and replacing all the exterior doors, interior doors, and the hardware, et cetera. We did not include that in the bid that's out now as an ad alternate, because if we had included that as a bid as an ad alternate for this previous project, we couldn't apply here.
Right.
So that's why it's a totally separate, pulled out option.
So I guess the only thing that, in my mind, we've got to have a hard discussion about, because I'm looking at the Macy option C. It looks to me like we've got those spelled out pretty clearly, and if what he says is accurate, then if we want to mark through any of those, as long as we don't add or change the intent, then that's okay. We can always reduce.
That was my understanding.
So if Eastern is not something that we think is needed in either circumstance, do we want to progress that one?
What you would need to progress, the $8.7 million
Yes.
resolution
Right.
for the HVAC roof and
Correct.
and safe school entrance. That one you would need to progress the $8.7 million.
Right. I'm just posing that question. Does the board want to, because every dollar amount we add to this for the Board of Supervisors adds a little more concern and trepidation, so I don't want to put anything forward that is going to endanger the other resolutions, which we absolutely know we have to have. Maybe they'll be okay with that. I mean, we can pass it, and then they say that one's one that they'd rather not, and they don't have to accept all of them. I guess. And at their board meeting, they could decide that Eastern considers to be redundant, and they can say that everything else looks okay. And Jason and I are meeting with them at 12, and I'm going to leave this meeting in recess in the event that something would come up that they absolutely needed us to revisit. I need at least 3 of us to be able to maybe pivot and approve a change really quickly. So who would be close by that could get back out here to this building sometime after 12 o'clock if we had to have somebody?
That should be.
Okay.
He's going.
Philip, you and Melissa, if we
Yeah, I mean,
do
he's
want
going
something
today,
changed,
so you can call me. I can run back out.
where are you gonna be?
Newport.
Okay.
I've got court at 1:40, but to free up.
I don't know that they'll have anything. I don't know. So
I share your concern about putting 2 up there. I think that's.
it just smells a lot like we're not really sure. And I know that we have a lot of work to do on this middle school option. It hasn't been vetted by the public. We still haven't done a lot of investigation into a lot of the details the public will have. But again, all this is doing is giving us the best chance we have to fund whatever solutions both boards end up agreeing on. If we don't have this teed up and everybody has a kumbaya and we come to a solution that everybody's happy with and we can only use 6% interest money, then we'll just have a beautiful plan that can't be funded. Doesn't help.
Well, I think from talking to folks, I think the Macy option's an easier sell because you can use that. It's dual purpose, even if you didn't change your configuration, if they get that housing development. you know, I think there's more comfort level with that than adding on at Eastern. But again, like you said, there's a lot of options out there on the table.
And I don't, Dr. Arbogast has talked to the folks in the funding arena. We don't know what that's gonna look like in a couple of years. Doesn't mean that literary loan won't still be out there. And
What he did say, I did email him after our conversation with the county administrator to find out. They anticipating conducting another literary fund application process in the spring timeframe, but that's contingent on the superintendent's office approval and that there's loan authority left from the $400 million in the current budget. And the General Assembly does not make any budgetary changes in fiscal year '24 affecting the ability to offer loans. So.
And that's how you
staff
qualify
plans-
a statement. That's how you
So
do it.
staff plans to request a spring application, but they don't know whether, and they won't know that until beginning of the new year. So we're January, February, probably February at the earliest that we would have any idea whether there's gonna be another literary fund application, and there may not be one. But they're anticipating that they're gonna request one, but
in my mind, from the Eastern End representative seat, the need to add on to Eastern is contingent upon a lot of different things that we just don't have any handle on right now. Until we get some additional growth in that area or growth in the central district, puts enough pressure on that area that Eastern needs to support. I think we've got a lot of work to do just to get our current buildings up to speed. I mean, we're gonna be buried in capital stuff for the next several years. And until we see a schedule from our architect on how that even happens in off-school year times, I don't think we really know how much time we're talking about here. We've got a long capital road ahead, so I don't think we're leaving that idea of Eastern behind. I don't think that it needs to muddy the water right now. I think we know when we would need that and why, and we've got a good number now, so at least we have a planning piece when and if that comes up. But I think we throw too much at the board of supervisors and the public all at once. We risk having to get a lot of this HVAC and roof stuff done that has absolutely got to happen right now, but that's just me. So, I mean, it's a lot of money, so every board member needs to speak their piece if they've got concerns or questions about any of this stuff.
I mean, I agree with what y'all are saying about that. We need to go ahead with what we've been talking about.
I mean, Mark, this is a big impact to Central good in many ways, but just, have you got any concern about anything?
Yeah, I probably agree with you. What we need to do.
Mr. Pennington?
I talked to a board member the day before yesterday. The way he talks and the feeling he gets from his board, the Macy thinks as being a middle school is not gonna fly with him from what he says. He said that they didn't have any problem with fixing our school buildings that need to be fixed now, which what we're concerned about. He said he didn't feel like they were having a problem getting the money to do the buildings that we have now to get fixed. But he said as far as the Macy becoming a middle school, he didn't feel like his board was gonna go for that. They feel like, from what he said, like I said, he's just one board member. But from what he said, they want, if there's a middle school made, it need to be for the whole county. I'm just repeating what he told me the day before yesterday. And I agree with y'all, we need to fix our buildings. And I'm like Stevie, we don't need to jeopardize getting them fixed, you know, 'cause they need to be fixed.
I think the Macy component's got the most chance of success from the standpoint of this discussion about adding on. Macy started, it was a question posed to us from county admin and supervisors if we had the capacity to handle 75, 150 different additional students in Harrisburg. That was what was posed. And I think there was, you know, we said that, I think at the time, that we'd have to look at redistricting Macy, but I think they were more comfortable with, and everyone was comfortable with, hey, let's add on classrooms. So I think that that's still got a chance. I think that's got a chance if you want to use it for the middle school proposal. I think that's got a better chance than us throwing up two additions.
And the intent of us putting forward the option C is what we've said all along. If the discussion with the public and the Board of Supervisors ends up that expansion for growth in Central in combination with this expansion that I think we heard they would support to get rid of certain facility components that are aged and maybe not as equipped as they should be. I think if some of those plus some upgrades to account for expansion in Central, maybe that's as far as that goes. But if the discussion progresses to some type of a middle school component, there will be at least funding available for us to have that conversation without a way to fund it. That's, I think, how we pose it to the public. And as much as we try to qualify what we're doing right now, both boards, there's still gonna be some optics that we've already made some decisions that we'll just have to keep messaging that that's not true.
Now, the reason we're having this conversation today, we're trying to put ourselves in the best position to be able to apply for funding for projects that we know we have projects we need to do, and any additional projects, we're at least positioning ourselves to get the 2% funding instead of having to go out there and apply, get loans, and that's 6% or whatever the percentage rate is, which is gonna be much higher than the 2%.
Yeah. So for the record, the only thing that both boards have absolutely agreed is necessary at this point is to do the necessary upgrades to the facilities that we have to make them whole and get us through the next several decades. All the other things you're hearing about are things that we absolutely believe should be discussed, considered, and without a way to fund any of them, then that discussion has no meaning. So we're just trying to get in line. And I think as part of this meeting, we've got to pass a resolution that states that, so the Board of Supervisors and the public understand that that is our intention.
Correct.
So is it appropriate that we pass that resolution first, or at least give you the language that we would like to have before this happens?
I would think it probably makes sense to pass that like resolution or motion or however, prior to doing anything here.
Right.
That way everybody knows.
So what Jason and I talked about with the Board of Supervisor members, and they represent to some extent the rest of the Board of Supervisors, they would like for us to either make a motion or pass a resolution that says that our intent with these resolutions is to put ourselves in a position to be able to fund future projects but that their approval and concurrence with those projects is absolutely necessary before we would move forward with spending any of the money in these resolutions. And if somebody can more, something to that extent.
I think that was the basis of the conversation, realizing that money wasn't gonna be spent until further conversations occurred.
And that way it's on the record. If somebody wants to say, well, I think you guys are getting ready to spend money, no, we have a resolution that says we have to have full Board of Supervisors concurrence before because the way this will work, if we progress a project, we'll design it, we'll get real numbers, and then we'll have to close a loan. And when we put ink on that loan is when we say we're going to pay you for the next
Correct. And
several decades. And until then, we have not actually spent any money.
keep in mind with this whole conversation that anything we're gonna do in any of these projects, we gotta get them to substantially complete with the architect,
Right.
engineer, to be able to move it as well.
One second.
I believe Mr. Buckland is crafting some language.
I thought that's. And also keep in mind,
Let's scroll that up a little bit. Okay, let's see how they did that.
keep in mind that after, we apply for any literary fund that's due the 16th, we gotta turn around and do the SCAP by the 28th November, as well. So, any application we put in for SCAP is based on points and needs in a matrix. So we just need to keep in mind that we might get additional funding, we may not. So,
And some of this that we're talking about, it may not get legs if some of that SCAP doesn't
correct.
come through.
Correct.
So,
Department of Education approves the literary loan, right?
Correct. We send that application to them, they approve it, and then their state board approves the allocation, releasing the funds. And I can't guess, I mean, I don't know how quickly, literary fund, once it's turned in, I think it was a couple months the last go around. So if we submit them by middle of November, I figure it's gonna be end of January, end of February before we would hear something probably. And that would be the earliest.
what was the timeline interaction between those two, Dr. Arbogast? There was some type of interaction between literary and SCAP. We need to keep some of that in mind. Like if we would accept literary, then we no longer could accept SCAP as well, or do they play okay with each other?
They play together.
We have to commit.
We've got to commit the funds.
So we could maximize the SCAP and
That would be-
gap fund
that would be-
with literary. Okay.
That would be the goal.
So do we want to go ahead and approve, while Jason's finishing that up, do we want to approve Eastern just so it's there, or just absolutely put our best foot forward and not approve Eastern, just show that we've already made some tough, reasonable decisions? I think Eastern probably, we just could take it off, because I don't think that means we're not interested in that option anymore. I think we're just not ready to do that now, and if we do get ready, we'll get it into the literary and SCAP arenas at the time.
I just want to make sure I everybody understands what you're saying. You're talking about the additional
Just the additional,
classrooms.
yes,
That's-
yes,
I just
yes,
wanna make
yes.
sure, you're just talking about removing the additional
Correct.
classrooms, which was about $6 million.
That's right.
We're talking about approving a lit fund loan resolution for HVAC replacement, roof replacement improvements and safe school entrance at Eastern of $8,722,654.
Absolutely.
I just wanna make sure that everybody,
Yeah, that, I will be run out of town. That is,
Let that building leak, keep on.
no, that is not what I meant. So the additional, I guess, option B
Option
for
B.
Eastern, I think we take that off
I just wanted to be clear.
the table, right?
Okay. That's the only reason I said what I said there. I just wanted to make sure that we're clear. Everybody's clear. And I think, and the board should be comfortable passing the resolution for Nares Elementary for $650 for the safe school entrance and the elevator replacement refurbishment. I believe the board is comfortable with Nares High Schools, the $13.4 million for HVAC, roof, window, lights in the auditorium, safe school entrance, that's what was added from the last time. And then Giles High School, the 18.7, again, that's HVAC, roof, replacement of lighting in the auditorium, windows throughout the building, replacement, safe school entrance as well there. And then, from what I heard, Eastern would be the 8.7 million for the HVAC, and the safe replacement and the, roof replacement and the safe school entrance. So that just leaves.
We didn't have any window issues at Eastern?
Not that we know of.
Okay. And then Macy, we're doing option C.
And Macy would be option C, which is the 15,775,000. And that again is putting us in position to apply for the resolution for funding for up to 11 classrooms and a STEAM lab, which includes a STEAM lab, that's an auxiliary gym, that's renovating the elevator, that's upgrading the safe school entrance there at Macy.
All right. I'll send you this so it'll be easy later.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I move that we pass the following resolution. Whereas Giles County Public Schools is applying for literary loan funding from the Department of Education. Whereas to apply for and eventually receive funding from the literary fund of the Board of Supervisors of Giles County needs to approve the funding and application to the Department of Education. And whereas Giles County Public Schools understands that in the event that literary loan funding is approved by the Department of Education, in the event that Giles County Public Schools intends to proceed with any approved project, Giles County Public Schools must receive formal approval of the Board of Supervisors of Giles County to proceed with any of the said projects. I think that.
I think that covers the conversation we've had.
Yeah.
We got a motion for that resolution.
I'll make that motion for the resolution.
Second.
Not second.
Jason made the motion.
I'll second.
So Melissa made the second. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right. So with that in place, and our intention clearly stated, do we need a motion for each individual resolution, Dr. Arbogast?
I probably so, since you were given 3 options for one and 2 options for another, I probably would do them individually. That way there is no confusion, if
Okay.
that's comfortable with the board. So I would ask the board to approve the resolution for Giles High School. That's $18,705,614. And that's for HVAC equipment replacement renovations, roof replacement improvements, replacement of the lighting system in the auditorium, replacement of windows throughout the building, and creating a safe school entrance for the building for Giles High School, and/or construction, equipping expansions, improvements to Giles High School.
I make that motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Ask the board to approve a resolution that allows us to apply for lit funding for Narrows High School of $13,433,612. For, again, purpose of HVAC equipment replacement renovation, roof replacement improvements, window replacement throughout the building, lighting system replacement within the auditorium, creating a safe school entrance for the building, and/or any other construction or equipping of expansion, renovation, improvements to Narrows High School.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Need to ask the board to approve a resolution to allow us to apply for lit funding for Narrows Elementary Middle School. That's in the amount of $650,000. That's the purpose of upgrade, replacement of the elevator, creating and adding a safe school entrance, and/or construction, equipment of expansion, renovation, improvements to Narrows Elementary.
I'll move we approve that resolution.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Eastern, I need to ask the board to approve a resolution for applying literary funding for Eastern Elementary Middle School in the amount of $8,722,654. That's purpose of HVAC equipment replacement, renovations, roof replacement, improvements, constructing a safe school entrance, and/or construction or equipping of expansion, renovation, improvements to Eastern.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
And I need to ask the board to approve a resolution for Macy McClarty. That's in the amount, to apply for literary funding in the amount of $15,475,600. That's for the purpose of, again, financing renovation of existing classrooms to accommodate any grade level changes, adding in addition to the building to accommodate up to 11 classrooms to help cover the Masra units as well as any growth to the building. Auxiliary gym, renovate, replace the elevators currently in use, and upgrade the safe schools entrance, and/or construction, equipment, expansion, renovations to Macy McClarty.
I'll move we approve that resolution.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Just to remind everybody so that everybody remembers, the reason we did not do the tech center, we did not need to change the dollar amount. You already done that at the October 19th board meeting, and you have already signed that resolution. So that would be the 6th project.
All right, we are going to leave this meeting in recess. We meet with the 2 Board of Supervisors reps at 12 o'clock. And one way or another, we'll get messages out to the 3 of you on whether or not we need to get back together or not.
We will have to at some point, either today or tomorrow, get together and actually adjourn the meeting.
Adjourn the meeting, so we'll need to bring somebody back just to make sure 3 of you here.
At least 3 of us.
Yeah.
So,
Let's see where we stand at noon.
yeah, and then
That's
circle
all right with
back.
you
Then we
guys.
can decide, yeah.
All right, this meeting is now in recess. Need some ink from everybody here.
Borrow your pen. I said, use the 3rd one. I changed it. Even then, corrected grammar.
What are y'all?
There's-
Thank you.
It doesn't have the whereas.